Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Good to have you guys here with me today. So guys, there was something that I was just thinking about recently, and I'm like, okay, this is actually something that it's worth discussing about because most times in marriages, we believe that once you're married, you have to be 100% in, which is the expectation, of course, and all. But then there was a question that just came to my mind: boundaries. Boundaries. Do you think that boundaries make sense in a marriage? Do you think it's essential for there to be boundaries within a marriage? I mean, that's just what we want to look into today. Just delve into. So from a little bit of what I read, right? The question was asked: are there certain things that couples should say yes to within a marriage, or couples should say no to within a marriage? In terms of the boundaries can be in different forms, right? Individual boundaries and then boundaries as a couple. Right, so can the wife say that, oh, there are certain things that I don't want you to do? Can the husband also say there are certain things that I don't want you to do? And as a couple, there are certain things that as a couple we are not going to allow within our marriage or our union, right? So, for example, there's this general notion of things that we normally hear when people say, don't press each other's buttons. Don't press each other's buttons. In my opinion, I think that there are definitely boundaries within marriage, and there are certain things that it is expected of each individual to be able to respect in their partner. So, for example, if your partner says that, when you yell at me, for example, it ticks me off and it makes me very uncomfortable. For me, it's a no. So if your partner is able to tell you that, then you as a person should try to listen and respond and try the best that you can to accommodate that request, right? So I think that there are definitely certain things that a couple can discuss within themselves and say, oh, it's a no for me, or it's a no for us as a couple. I mean, so from the light reading that I did, I came to realize that it's coming from a place of respect, right? Because ideally there has to be mutual respect in a marriage, right? Where the husband respects the wife respects the husband as well, right? So because we need to realize that we're first individuals before we came together as a couple and as a married couple. So let me quickly read something real quick that I read. It says that only when a husband and a wife know and respect each other's needs, choices, and freedom can they give themselves freely and lovingly to one another. So once you can understand that this is my boundary, these are things that I feel like might not or go on well for me, or things that I feel like can impact me in a certain way, then once we can respect that, then of course we can now say that yes, our relationship, we are free enough to be ourselves and we are free enough to love one another without any cap. So when they're saying don't press each other's buttons, that saying that says don't press each other's buttons, I think is actually very profound, because it means that that these things are things that can probably trigger your spouse or can make your spouse react in a certain way, but you keep doing that to provoke the person or to push the person over the edge, right? So I think that is very important for us to understand some of these boundaries. Now, from some of the research that I've also done, right, I've also been able to realize that when it comes to boundaries in marriage, it's not necessarily to create division in the marriage, right? It's just a way for us to better understand each other and come to an agreement on certain things, right? So for example, a married couple can set boundaries on they can set boundaries on how to resolve conflict. For example, how long do we want to go without discussing or without resolving our issues? Some will say 24 hours, some will say 48 hours, as the case may be. Some couples set boundaries when it comes to in-laws and friends, right? How do we handle in-laws? How do we handle friends? Some couples can set boundaries or around maybe money. For example, we don't want to run into any debt, any financial situation that we're in. We need to work on it together as a couple, right? So there are different areas which in which boundaries can actually be set, right? And it helps couples to better understand each other, to say, okay, this is how my spouse is, these are the things that my spouse can accept, these are the things that this is the limit that my spouse can take, my spouse cannot go beyond this. So it helps us to better understand them, it helps us to better relate with them, and it helps us to have peace, basically all around peace in our marriages. So the ways in which couples can set these boundaries is by having a sit down and communicating, right? Don't assume, right? It's always important for you to sit down with your spouse and communicate with them, understand those things to them that might seem like extremes. Like for example, communication. Now some men will say, I don't like it when you shout and yell. We women, sometimes our voices can go up. Sometimes they will tell you, I don't want you to communicate with me in that manner. And we need to be able to take responsibility for that, since they've been able to share with us that maybe they are not comfortable with this particular thing, or they don't like this particular thing. We need to be able to listen and understand. Or if your wife comes to you and says, there's this female lady or your secretary, or there's this girl that I always see around you, and I'm not too comfortable with how she's always around you. I feel like, you need to set a boundary there and you need to cut it short. It is the responsibility of the husband to also listen and take responsibility for that, so that your spouse can also feel safe, right? So long and short of it is communicating. Boundaries is not essentially to create division within a marriage. It's just for you to better understand the limits of your partner, to know the length at which they can go, the length which they cannot go, and for you to be able to respect that, so that there can be peace and there can be better understanding. I think that's the word, better understanding within the marriage and the relationship. Okay. So that's just a bit about what I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you've been able to pick or learn one or two things from it. Please feel free to share in the comment section what you think about this subject, and your thoughts and your opinions. And for those that have not subscribed, please subscribe so we can join in on this conversation and learn from one another and be better for it. Talk to you guys some other time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.